Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Analogs. Today with me we have the voice of Pan from Dragonball GT, Ayame from Yu Yu Hakusho, Yoko Okino from Case Closed, and many, many more. The one and only Elise Baughman. How are you today, Elise?
Hi, I'm good. It's so good to be here. Yeah, how are you?
I've been good, just dealing with this quarantine and pandemic the best I can.
Yes, I think we all are. I know it's crazy. It's just a totally different world that who knew it would last this long and gosh, I feel like it's going to last a lot longer too.
Exactly. I think back in March when we first were let go from work because of it,
Mhm.
everyone just assumed that life would go back to normal in a few months, just like any other thing we've dealt with. But yeah, it's been tough. But
Yeah.
but basing going off of that, the
Mhm.
pandemic has affected us all in different ways. In your line of work, everything has shifted from physical conventions to virtual. How has that
Mhm.
experience been like?
Well, so of course, much different, but I guess the silver lining is it's nice that we're still having a way to connect with people. And it's interesting because I just did a virtual convention today
Yeah.
where I moderated three different panels with six actors.
Oh,
And
cool.
so what's great is we can still connect with people. It's never going to be the same as being in person, of course. And I'm so
True.
excited to have those come back one day. And, who knows when that will be. But I love doing the virtual conventions because at least we can feel a bit normal from the comfort of our own homes. And, I think it may change even the way that conventions are done in the future because I've talked to some people who run conventions and, it may be that we can add a virtual aspect to even the live conventions when they come back. And
True,
I
yeah.
also think what's unique is some people, because, I have Anime Adventures, I have a YouTube show too.
Which is
And
awesome, by the way.
yeah, you and I talk about that. What people may not know, we've talked a lot, just like
Yeah.
by direct messages. So we talk about our YouTube channels a lot. But it's interesting hearing from people who live in a different country. So they may live in India or they live even in the US and they have said to me, gosh, I would never be able to come to a convention. And so I think the silver lining from this is we're figuring out ways to do virtual conventions both during the pandemic and afterwards where people who haven't had access or may never have access now have access to actors or even exhibitors and artists and other people that they wouldn't have normally.
That's very true. That was actually going to be my next question.
Oh, it
If,
was.
yeah,
Excellent.
if I was going to ask if this new normal was going to drastically change the scene of conventions in general. And you bring up a very good point. There are times where it's either economically unfeasible or just for other reasons. Sometimes it's someone can't travel for health reasons. So that's a good idea. Like having the actual convention maybe in the future when everything calms down, and then having the virtual aspect like you mentioned, so that people that can't physically attend the convention can get that grasp and feeling of being at the convention itself. So that's a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope so. I hope it does open up a world, like you said, to people who can't for financial reasons or for health reasons or whatever, if they can't make it, I hope we do add that aspect so that more people have access to that feeling, because convention is just a world that's so much fun.
It
And
really is, yeah.
I've had the conversation with you before, like I just started doing conventions in 2018. I mean,
Hmm.
besides a long time ago, but I just had no idea like how much fun and what that energy is like. And so if we're able to add that virtual aspect or that online aspect to the live convention so people can experience that, I think it would be just amazing.
For sure, yeah. This
Mm-hmm.
past weekend, I actually first experienced my first virtual con because there's a gaming event called QuakeCon,
I
and
saw online that you were participating in that. How was
yeah,
that?
it was amazing. It's
Yeah.
I'm really connected to that community because I've been attending physically for 14 years, which is like the longest I've ever attended
Whoa.
anything. And
Really?
yeah, and so this year they didn't want the pandemic to ruin it, so they
Mm-hmm.
shifted virtually. And it's one of those games and conventions that it has a very international audience, I guess, just like any other anime does. But it allowed people that could never attend the convention here in Dallas from other countries to actually experience what it was like. So it was awesome.
Wow, So was it did you even still, even though you were doing it online, did you still kind of get a sense of energy and like excitement from people?
Yeah, especially because of the Discord community.
Hmm.
So everyone was like all of the regular attendees were on Discord. So it kind of felt like being there. And somebody actually recorded the ambiance from the convention, like 37 minutes of just background noise. And
Oh,
so they shared that on Discord, and people were playing it in their homes. So it kind of felt like you were there in a way. It was pretty cool.
that's pretty cool. That's
Yeah.
pretty awesome, actually.
Yeah. So I know you have a degree in accounting. How did you go from the corporate world to the entertainment world? How was that transition like?
Oh my goodness. So kind of crazy because yeah, I majored in accounting and then I had never thought about acting. And I was getting my MBA and that's when I first got interested in acting
Mm.
because they kicked me. I was very involved in school and they kicked me out of every organization and every sport that I was doing. And so I got interested in acting, but there wasn't much for me to do there. And so fast forward to I moved to Dallas, a big city from where I was living.
From
And
Monroe, Louisiana, right?
well, that's where I grew up. But
Okay.
then I went to school at Louisiana Tech. And so that was
Oh,
Ruston, Louisiana. And so at the time, the population was about 20,000. We kind of joked it was like 10,000 during the summer. And then when college kids got there, it's 20,000.
oh,
Um, but so there's theater to do there, but not much else. And so I started working in corporate America. I worked in the defense industry, and I loved the people I worked with, but I still was interested in acting. And so I took an acting class. It was given to me actually by my best friend from high school. He knew I was
oh, awesome.
interested. Yeah, and like I said, I loved the people I worked with, but I didn't really think I was going to. That wasn't my calling in life to be an accountant. And so I would kind of leave work frustrated sometimes. And then I would go to my acting class and just feel like I was on top of the world. And so I was like, how could I make that into a career? And now, being the accountant and I make lists and I still do this, I make a lot of to do lists. And so I started
Mm.
asking a lot of questions and making lists. And the very short story is I figured out the steps that I needed to take to do that and started kind of working through those and eventually made it happen. You know, it's not an easy process at all, but I'm a very
Can
hard
imagine.
worker. And so I eventually started pursuing it and took a job that had a little more flexibility so that I could pursue it. And I don't know, the rest is his, history. Like I said, that's the short version. But yeah, I started pursuing on camera first and then got into voice acting about maybe a year or two after I started pursuing on camera.
Oh, okay. So it was kind of one of those things where it was just lingering in the back of your head, and you just, I just got to go for this now, or I'll regret it later
Yeah,
on.
and I will say, like when I first started, like my first acting class, I didn't know if I would be an actor. Like I didn't know if I would go down that route forever because I didn't know anybody who was an actor and I didn't even know what that meant.
Yeah.
And I just kind of thought you had to be like a celebrity or nothing at all. I didn't know you could be a working actor,
Uh-huh.
you know, like a normal working actor. So when I first took a class, I was giving a lot of presentations at my job at the time. So I thought, well, you know, maybe this will just be something that gets me out of my comfort zone and I give better presentations at work. My very analytical accounting type presentations. I was working as a financial analyst. So
Yeah.
maybe that's all I'm meant to do. Or maybe if I like it, I'll pursue it. But little bitty things started happening. And, my first class, somebody said, or the teacher was like, do you want an agent? I didn't even know what that was. I was like, yeah, sure. I don't know what that is, but yeah, sure, I'll take one of those.
Yeah.
And so it was just little things happened at first. And the agent said, do you need headshots? And it's like, I don't know what those are, but tell me how to get some of those made.
Yeah.
And then, through that process, I realized I was really enjoying it. And I thought, well, I will pursue it. But once I really got serious, I also got to the point where I was like, okay, I need to set some goals and make sure that this is not just a hobby, that I can actually turn it into a living. Because
Mhm.
if it's a hobby, I still need to do accounting or sales, because I did sales during that time I was pursuing it, and do it as a hobby. Or I need to commit and go full speed ahead and see if I can make it work as a job and make a living from it.
Yeah,
So fortunately, I discovered I loved it and I made it into a living.
that's awesome. That's a really smart way of going about it. A lot of people don't realize that it does help to set goals and then just take steps from there. It's not going to happen overnight. And you're proof of that. You did it the right way. Everything was taken in steps and you took the right precautions and measures and it worked out.
Yes, well, I'm a big nerd when it comes to goal setting. Like that's been a passion of mine, and I read books on it all the time, like ever since college. So yes, I wrote down my goals and my action steps, and had certain milestones that I had to hit at certain periods of time. And I will say, since I didn't like the accounting work,
Hmm.
I was very driven, and I was like, if I don't hit these, I will have to go back to that. And so I hit my goals and my
That,
milestones.
that's also a good way of looking at it. Like, do I want to go back? If I don't do everything I can, I'll have to go back. So,
Yeah,
which is a good segue to this next question.
sure.
Many fans know you from your voiceover work and may not know about your other ventures when it comes to entertainment. Speaking of, how was it traveling the country in an RV?
It was really fun. It was such a cool experience. Yeah, Mark and Robert were my co-hosts on that, and it was something Robert Wittenberg was my. I lived in LA for a while, and
Hmm.
actually moved out there to pursue on-camera work and film and TV specifically, and became friends with Robert Wittenberg, and he pulled me into this audition, and we didn't know what we were getting into. And then like Mark Summers was the other host and one of the producers of the shows, and now I still stay in touch with both of them, and we're such good friends. But so Mark had the idea to do this because he was an RV enthusiast, and
Ah,
so yeah, we kind of he had the idea to do the show where we traveled around, and so it was kind of the idea of a travel show, but we were in the RV. It was crazy at times. There was one time where there were like, gosh, one, two, three, four, maybe six people sleeping in an RV, and
oh
two
wow.
pit bulls. Needless to say, I did not get any sleep that night, and we had to be peppy on camera the next day.
Lots of coffee.
Lots of, yes, lots of caffeine.
Lots of
Lots of
coffee.
caffeine. But we went to some really cool places, and we, my uncle had an RV growing up, but we didn't travel in it. We would just go to his house for Christmas, and kids would play in it, but it
Hmm.
was parked. So I had not traveled in an RV. So to actually travel in an RV and go to an RV park and talk to people who loved that lifestyle, like, it was really cool. It was neat to experience that lifestyle and talk to people who, some were lifers and did it all the time. So it was really a neat experience.
I've actually seen that. There's a niche YouTube community to where that's their
Yes.
livelihood. They pretty much vlog their entire travels across the U.S. in RVs. It's really
Yeah.
interesting. So
It's it's fascinating.
is it something you had done before? Like, had you gone on very many road trips prior, or was that your first big introduction towards travel in that sense?
I had gone on road trips, but always in the car, like, and always with, my hubby or my family, because
Yeah.
my family always went to Florida every year growing up. So we had done road trips, but it was never in an RV, so never that type of experience.
It's completely different.
Uh-huh.
I'm honestly terrified of flying. Like it's something.
Oh,
It's
are you really?
yeah. It's something that when I was younger, I was fine with it. And I guess the
Uh-huh.
older I got, the more I'm like, oh, this. I don't have very much control over this. But
Oh,
that's
interesting.
that's why I like road trips so much. But
Hmm.
statistically, you're probably safer on a plane, from what I've learned.
That's what I
But
always
but
hear.
but road trips are very fun. So that must have been a great experience.
So you would probably love RVing then.
Yeah, I've done a couple drives from here to Detroit for a couple tournaments, and then one from here to Vegas. And I don't know if I would drive that distance anymore, or maybe cut it
That's a
down to a
long,
couple days. But yeah, it was fun.
yeah.
So you've been a TV host, on-cam actress, interviewer, convention host, voiceover actress. The list goes on. What is the most difficult hat to wear, and what is the easiest hat to wear in your opinion?
It's funny. I think the hardest thing is being interviewed. So like what you're doing right now, because on Anime Adventures, I think I've done maybe 70 interviews or something, and then I did celebrity interviews in LA. Different, I'm doing voiceover celebrity interviews now, and I did TV and film celebrity interview. So I've done all these interviews, and then when somebody interviews me, I'm like, oh gosh, this is hard.
Yeah.
So that may be the hardest. What was the other part of the question?
So what's the easiest hat to wear? Like, which one do you enjoy the most?
Ooh,
Do you find easier to go through?
I don't know. I'm the type of actor, I love it all. Like
Hmm.
I have friends who are just want to do film or just voiceover, or they have a preference. I think to me it's so exciting to be able to do everything. And one of the reasons that I like acting and like doing on camera and TV hosting and voiceover in general is because of the variety. Because,
True.
one day you're in the recording booth, and one day you're doing interviews, and I've gotten to do some film and TV, so it's the variety is interesting. And even within the commercial world, or I do corporate training videos. One day you may be in the banking industry, and another job may be the automobile industry. So you get to learn a little bit about a bunch of different industries and companies. So to me, that's fun and interesting. So I don't. It's hard to pick a favorite. It's like picking your favorite child. You just can't do
True.
it.
Yeah, that's so true. That's also a good point. It gives you a lot of creative outlets, and it keeps you on your toes. I guess it keeps the job interesting. That way, you're
It
not
does.
in a booth 8 hours a day, 20, like 12 hours a day every single day. So that's a good aspect. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like everything.
Yeah. If you weren't in the entertainment industry now, and would you see yourself going back to accounting, or if not, what other profession would you like to pursue if you weren't doing what you're doing now?
Okay, no, I wouldn't go back to accounting.
I kind
that,
of
that
figured.
was an easy and just easy and easy. I can't spit it out. Easy answer.
Yeah.
So there are two jobs that I would consider. This is nerdy too. So I really like to organize,
Mhm.
and so I might be a professional organizer, because I actually looked into it at one time. There's like a National Association for Professional Organizers.
What? I
So
had no idea.
yeah, I got
That's cool.
serious about it one time. I also love decorating, and my sister and I even considered starting a decorating business together. So I would do something like decorating or organizing. And I would actually love to be a motivational speaker, which is kind of on my to do list. And that's kind of related to entertainment. So I don't know if that counts. So I think
Yeah.
those are the things that one, I would still like to do, and the other two, if I weren't doing my current job, I would do.
I can see you now as an interior designer. When you leave a little picture of Pan in every single household
It's like
to
my
leave your
Easter
mark.
egg at people's house.
Find the picture of Pan somewhere in the household. So,
uh,
did your purple belt in Taekwondo prepare you for the role of Pan?
oh
It
my
had to have
goodness.
helped somehow.
You really did your homework. Well, it was backwards. I did the role of Pan first, and then
Oh,
I got interested in martial arts. So then I started taking Taekwondo. Yes, it probably would have helped, but it was because of that I got interested.
oh, so the role of Pan kind of
Hmm.
motivated you to pursue that?
Yeah, it did.
Oh,
It
that's really
did.
interesting. That's cool.
Yeah, I actually want to take it back up, and we had started looking into it, but then the world kind of shut down. So,
Yeah, yeah, seriously.
yeah.
Hopefully sooner than later things will be, I don't think we'll be back to complete normality, but at least
Mm-mm.
some sort of normality, you know.
Some sense, yes, of normalcy. That would be good.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for people wanting to pursue voice acting, because I have personally I have a lot of friends that are looking into it as well,
Hmm.
because it's something that you can do from home, especially like instances like websites like Fiverr that have been popping up to where you can get hired to do some voiceover work here and there.
Hmm.
What is the most important piece of advice you could give somebody that's pursuing that industry? Something that you wish someone had told you when you first started.
Ooh. Well, fortunately, people told me this. I always say study. And that was always my answer before the world shut down. It just looks differently now. So I always recommend classes, and I love taking classes. So I recommend people take classes. You used to could do it in person for voiceover. Now you can do it, there are people who teach classes online, teach classes virtually. So I even coach via Skype. There are other people, like even anime actors, who will teach group classes or teach via Skype.
Hmm.
And there are plenty of YouTube videos on voice acting. I wish I had some to recommend, but I just haven't done the research. So there are free ways to take classes. Like if you're not at the point you can invest in a class right now,
Hmm.
then I would just recommend, like, if you look on YouTube, because there are probably some that are not so credible. So just do your homework and find some ways to figure out who might be good to study with online. Because I know when I started YouTube, and I don't know if you did this, I didn't know what I was doing. And so
Oh
I
yeah.
just started doing research and found out, like, and started asking friends, like, who do I need to study with so I can learn how to do YouTube? And
Yeah,
so
for
the
sure.
other thing that I would recommend, and I'm reaching for my phone, is record yourself and get used to hearing yourself if you're not already used to it. But like every time we hear ourselves for the first time, you go, I don't
Like
sound
I don't
like
sound like
that.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, right? So just get used to recording yourself, because as actors in this day and age, as voice actors, you record all your auditions from home, or there's an exception to every rule, but most of the time you record from home. And so you have to get used to self-directing and taking notes from your audition script and being able to record, self-direct, send it to your agent. So you need to start recording stuff, even if it's just, magazine, like I'm pointing to something because I've got stuff taped up all around my computer because of today's con, but just
Yeah.
recording commercials that you hear on the radio or that you see in a magazine, recording, if you're into anime or animation, recording stuff that you hear and you like, and seeing how you do, and playing with voices. And that is probably one of the best things to start with.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
All good points. Like you said, yeah, YouTube teaches you everything nowadays. Like s- some colleges are gonna go out of business. You can literally learn anything on YouTube. Like you said, when I first started doing YouTube, I had no idea what I was doing, especially when it came to editing. I was like, how am I gonna piece this together? Like,
Oh, so did you do the same thing? Did you look everything up on YouTube?
yeah, I gradually started learning everything, like
Hmm.
from filming to the editing process. The editing process was like the most daunting for me, to be honest, because all throughout
Yeah.
school I would record video clips, but I didn't know what to do with them. So learning how to edit was daunting, but it's really
Oh,
fun. Yeah.
it is. Well, yeah, and it is amazing what you can learn on YouTube.
Yeah. So
Yay.
that
But
that
this is.
leads
Oh yeah, go ahead.
that leads to my next question.
Sure.
How has your adventure in on YouTube been? Your anime adventure series. How has that been like? From
Literally.
yeah, pretty much
Yeah.
from the concept of it, coming up with the idea to where you are now. Like, how was that journey like? Like, what's it been like? Because it looks like
Well,
it's a ton of fun.
oh, it is. It is a ton of fun. Because yours looks like you're having a ton of fun too.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
yeah, from concept, I will say it's funny now that I know and I listen to YouTubers train. They're like, you never just on a whim decide that you're going to do a YouTube channel. That's exactly what I did. Because I just started doing conventions in 2018, and my first convention was with Rick Robertson, who is the voice of Deborah on
Oh,
Dragon Ball Z. And so I have a DSLR camera and then a Sennheiser 416 mic that I have in my studio. And so I was like,
mhm.
Rick, I'm going to start a YouTube channel. I think that'd be cool. And I know nothing about YouTube, but and some of it was more thought out, but I thought it would be really cool since I have friends who are anime voice actors. I thought it would be and I love doing interviews. So I thought it would be neat to bring kind of an insider access to fans and friends of shows. So that part was thought out, but part of it was just on a whim. And so I brought my own camera and I brought my own mic, and I made so many mistakes. I would forget to turn on the mic because I capture sound separately, or I'd forget to turn on the camera and we'd have to do it separate, do it again.
I've definitely been there.
And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, right.
Yeah.
And I mean, gosh, like Josh Martin, whom you've interviewed one or two times, and Chris
Yeah.
Rager were one of my first interviews. They did this amazing interview at a con that we had together. Forgot to do the sound. We had to do it over again.
Oh
So
man.
it's been so much of a learning experience. But then, now that I'm up to whatever, not all of my videos have been interviews. That's why I don't know exactly, but I have like 70 videos. Some have been panels. I've learned so much. I've absolutely loved it. Now I've had people volunteer and bring fancy equipment that I would have never been able to do. And
Yeah.
it's just fun. And I love it, even though I'm an actor, I love hearing what actors have to say, how they got started, what their experiences have been, what trials and challenges they've gone through. And I think and I'm even kind of getting chills, like, I think one of the neatest experiences has been to hear how passionate they are. Like,
Hmm.
so many, they just love what they do. And so that's neat to be able to hear their story and then share their story with people. And again, it's kind of like the cons. Not everybody has access to get to a con, kind of like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, true.
And in the same way, not everybody has access to talk to one of their favorite actors or favorite actresses. And so I love that I can bring that to people. And then the other part that was unexpected is I've been able to connect with people who watch the show
Hmm.
and hear stories from them, from viewers. And I never expected, like, what a wonderful connection that's been. So it's been really a wonderful adventure, like, to use that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
had to do it.
That's the awesome part of YouTube. It's putting all that work into a video and then going through the comment section hours later and just seeing how much of an impact it makes to your audience. I've learned so much through your videos and through your interviews about some of my
Oh,
favorite voice actors, like things that I had no idea, like things I didn't know. So that's a very good way of thinking about it. You're giving the viewer a perspective that they would have never seen or known
mm.
about without the interviews.
Thank you. Well, yeah, and it's been, so I read every comment. I try to respond. I don't always get to respond to every comment. I try to respond to every, but it's interesting because all the comments come to my phone. But
Mhm.
it's so cool to read all the comments and see what people have to say about whether it's the actor in the interview or panels that I've been able to share recently. Like, it's really, I love that part.
Yeah, I really enjoy the panels that you've been putting up as well, because that's another thing. Some people have never seen panels because they can't attend the conventions, and you're putting it out there, so that's really cool to see.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been fun. It's been pretty cool. I
You've been doing
appreciate
an
it.
amazing job.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Well, yourself too.
Oh,
Like, I
thanks.
feel like we've both been doing this YouTube, whatever. I hate to use adventure again, but adventure and journey together. And I, for people who don't know, like, we see each other at conventions and we talk at conventions and then we talk via Instagram and we've shared information. So it's
Yeah,
been kind of cool to see how the channels have grown
yeah,
together.
we'll give each other tips. It's like, oh, is this working? No, it's not. We got to do this.
Yeah,
It's
what do
been,
I do?
yeah.
How do we make this work?
Even today with the camera issues, it, it's
I
fun.
know we were both having the same problems with our cameras. So
Yeah.
yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much for doing this interview. I hope you enjoyed your convention earlier, and I hope you enjoyed this interview. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's been so much fun. I always love talking to you in person or virtually. So I thank you and I appreciate you having me.
Oh, likewise. It's always a blast. So be sure, guys, I'm going to link it below. Check out Anime Adventures on YouTube. All her social medias will be linked in the description below. So be sure to go check all that out. Thank you for joining me on another episode of Analogs, and thank you, Elise, for joining us as well. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and stay safe out there.
Thank you. I will. See you guys later.
Thank you
Bye.
so much. Bye.